Everyone has a good story to tell, and you know it is a good story when the person leans in and says, "See, what had happened was," and then tells the story.
This podcast provides those opportunities to tell those types of stories in education. The stories will be from the good, the bad, and everything in between. We wanted to do this podcast to showcase stories in education and to give flowers to educators who deserve recognition for their excellence.
Our guests will feature parents, students, teachers, administrators, and just about anyone who is involved in education. These stories will inspire you, challenge you, and help you to reflect on your practice of education, whether it be from the inside of the classroom or outside.
If you have a good story to tell, we'd love to hear it. Email us at contact@andredowty.org. We'd love to have you or your story on a future episode. See What Had Happened starts now. Welcome to See What Had Happened, where we hear stories in education from the good, the bad, and everything in between. We're your co-hosts, Danielle and Andre Daughty. If this is your first episode tuning in, welcome. If you've been part of the family since season 1, welcome back.
Welcome back.
We're on all podcasting networks, and if you want to see the show versus listen to the show, follow us on YouTube. Wherever you watch, make sure you click the like button, subscribe, and share it out to your friends.
See, the thing is, we need you to like, subscribe, and share so we can work around those algorithms. Without your help of liking and sharing and subscribing, our podcast stays towards the bottom and it's not as discoverable. So if you don't mind, help us out. Do us a solid.
Take us to the top,
Go
y'all.
ahead, please. Let's do that. Well,
all right, today we have a special guest joining us. Married to her high school sweetheart and mother of 3, Erin Page is the managing editor of Metro Family magazine. Metro Family shares ideas, tips, and tricks, and things to do for families near and far. As an advocate in education, Erin furthers conversations on equity and excellence in her community and statewide. She hosts the Metro Family podcast, Raising OKC Kids, with the same passion to help today's parents meet the needs of the whole child, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Please welcome to the show, Mrs. Erin Page. Hi, Erin.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me and for that very kind introduction.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You are, when we say friends and friends of the podcast, like you are the A1 for us. We really appreciate everything that you've done for us. For those listeners who may not know, way back in 2020, when the COVID first hit everything, Erin was looking for some people to discuss what does education look like in this new season of COVID. And she reached out to us at the very beginning, and from there, friends. Followed each other on Facebook. She saw how goofy and silly we were, but she also saw how much of an advocate for education we were. And we were sharing with her about like, hey, we may do this podcast thing, and told her like, this would be a good opportunity perhaps to do some podcasts yourself for your community and for Metro Family. And from there, we've had podcasts and we've discussed all of the things. So we really, really appreciate you, Erin.
Well, I appreciate you guys too. You guys have been such inspirations, voices of reason, and you've shared so much of your expertise through Metro Family's podcast and in print articles. And I can speak for me and for our entire parent community when I say you guys are the educators that have gotten me through my role as virtual school mom that like I never knew I wanted to have, right? You've just really helped, I think, keep parents grounded and focused on some of the silver linings and helped parents know when and how to ask hard questions.
Yes. We really appreciate you.
So go ahead and what did we miss out, Erin? What other details would you like to share for our listeners today?
I have 3 kids. This year they are in 4th and 2nd grade and kindergarten. Like you guys mentioned, I'm managing editor for Metro Family magazine in Oklahoma City. I've actually written for the magazine in some capacity for the past about 10 years.
Wow.
And I've had the opportunity to do a lot of research and reporting on lots of education related topics. So I'm a huge proponent of public school. a huge cheerleader for teachers as much as I can be. I remember as a kid, my mom used to always say to me, there is no more important job in the world than a teacher. So she likes to get credit, that she instilled that in me from an early age, but I believe it wholeheartedly. Our whole family does.
Very good.
All right. Let's set up this story here. Today's story Erin's going to share with us. Erin, is this you as teacher? Is this you as educator? Is this you as parent? Is this you as mom during COVID at home, also helping online? Go ahead and set up the story for us.
So the story I'm going to share today is from me as a parent. It's about my daughter, Addie, who gave me permission to share. The power of having a teacher who focuses on and is intentional about diversity and inclusivity in their classroom.
Okay.
Here we go. Good
This
setup.
show is called See What Had Happened. What had happened?
What had happened was my daughter was entering the third grade. This was the 2020-2021 school year. So they were going back to school after, coming home from spring break 2020 and never going back. There was a lot of anxiety around this school year because we didn't know what this was going to look like. We were afraid of kids catching COVID. They were wearing masks. They were going to be on an A/B schedule. So in school some days a week, at home, unfortunately, with me as their virtual school teacher, other days of the week. Also, third grade is kind of a heavy year in Oklahoma. They start state testing in third grade. All of the third grade team at my daughter's school was brand new to the school, so we didn't know anything about these teachers coming in. And then we also had some concerns about Oklahoma history, which is taught in the third grade. Addie is our first child, our oldest child, so we didn't know what this history curriculum was going to look like. And this is kind of problematic in Oklahoma. I'm a product of public school in Oklahoma. We didn't know if this curriculum was going to be taught from the Native perspective, to really talk about what happened in our state history, how that included Native people, and the harm that was done to Native people in the creation of our state. I know those topics weren't necessarily discussed when I was in school, so we didn't know what this was going to look like. And it matters in particular to our family because my kids and I are members of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. So we had a lot of questions going into the school year. We were worried about whether there was going to be a land run reenactment, which is what happened when I was in school. And kind of the other piece of this is I was also a member of the district's Inclusivity and Diversity Committee. It was brand new last year. So I knew I would need to be really paying attention and asking a lot of questions, not just as a tribal member and as a mom, but also as a representative of this committee. This is part of my job and my duty to the district as well. And I'll add to that, although I was not raised traditionally Native, which is primarily because we had family members, unfortunately, disassociated with the tribe along the way. So in addition to getting reconnected to the tribe and on the rolls through paperwork, we're also trying to really reclaim this part of our heritage and be good stewards of this piece of our history. I want my kids to be proud that they are Native people, and I want them to understand not just the vibrancy of the tribe today, but I want them to understand the history of our people in this state. So we have all that going on in our heads and in our hearts as we enter this school year. We meet Addie's new teacher. We can tell right away that there's something really special about her. We can tell right away that she is very intentional about including everyone in her classroom. The very first thing she had the kids do was fill out like an about me paper. What do you want to learn about this year? And my sweet daughter, who is braver and a bigger advocate than I look to her, like she's my inspiration. She writes on that paper, I want to learn Oklahoma history from the Native perspective this year, and I want to learn more about my own Choctaw heritage. And the teacher was thrilled to see that and expressed that to Addie, that she was happy to see that on her paper. Probably one of the first emails I got from this teacher to the whole class was she had kind of inherited this classroom library of books. She had just, walked into it and was dealing with what she had in the classroom. And she did not like that the library of books she had was not representative of the kids in the class. And so she sent out an email to all the parents that she really wanted to grow this library. She wanted the kids in her class to be able to see themselves in the books that were offered to them. So I'm like, yes, add to Amazon cart, whatever you want, we will help with that. And then a couple months later, she did not balk when in the middle of class, my kid raises her hand. I'm sure they were like doing a lesson on something else, but what was on Addie's mind that day is, Miss Harriet, are we going to have to celebrate Columbus Day, or are we going to get to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day this year? And I love that she, took a moment to acknowledge Addie's question, add that this was inspired by Danielle, because Addie had heard the story about how Danielle taught about Christopher Columbus in her second grade class, the real story of Columbus. So we had kind of researched that as a family. And Addie was like, well, I'm not learning a fake story. I want to learn the real story. So I love that her teacher created an environment where Addie felt comfortable asking that question. So it's in the spring semester that they really began this unit on Oklahoma history. I remember Addie coming home and saying, Mom, you won't believe it. We're getting to learn about all the Native tribes. We're getting to learn about, how incredible they are. We're also learning about their struggles and what this meant for them. And I have an inkling that this teacher had planned it that way all along. That was probably always her intention. But Addie was connecting in her head, this is what I told my teacher was important to me. And now this curriculum is being taught in the way I asked it to be taught. So she felt heard and understood. Yes. At the same time at home, because remember, I'm trying to be the virtual school teacher too, right? We were working through, Oklahoma City Public Schools has an incredible Native American Student Services department. They offer a plethora of free resources for teachers and for families. Mm-hmm. So we were working through their Oklahoma history curriculum, which is taught entirely from a Native perspective. We were also using some resources from our tribe. And so as Addie was kind of learning all of these things, she actually got to do a little presentation to her class about what it means to her to be Choctaw. And she taught the class a couple of Choctaw words. It was a really powerful experience for her to get to do that. And I love that her teacher gave her that space and time. So we're getting close to the end of this unit. They're talking about something they're going to do at the end called Pioneer Day, which is raising lots of red flags for me. And I know, okay, this is the part where mom has to advocate and get involved. So I'm sending the emails to the teacher. Is there going to be a land run reenactment? In case you're not aware, here's why that is problematic and harmful. The teacher was so kind and gracious, answered all of my questions, assured me that the day was just going to be activities that were both from the pioneer and the Native perspective. So we felt great about that. Then they asked the kids to wear clothing that are representative of what pioneers would have worn in that time. And my kid is like, nope, I'm not wearing that. Mm-hmm. So we have all these conversations at home. We're trying to be very cognizant of not wanting to send her in something that would feel like a costume or appropriation, because again, we're not as connected to the tribe as we would like to be. So we don't own any regalia. We're trying to come up with something that feels okay to her, but that is also respectful of our tribal members. So we decide she's going to wear a shirt that says Choctaw Pride on it. She's nervous about going to school because she knows I'm going to look different than everybody else. But she gets there that day and her teacher praised her, was so excited to see her wearing that shirt, was so excited that she had come up with something that felt good to her, that was representative of her heritage. So all of this to say, this whole school year, the whole experience was really life-changing, I would say, for Addie, because to have a teacher who from the very beginning says, we are going to honor and acknowledge and celebrate each other's differences. This is a place where we can conversations that are hard, where you can ask questions in class and I will acknowledge them and I will answer them. And for Addie to have that space to really delve into her history and her heritage. And, there's awkwardness and tension there because we're not as connected as we would like to be. We want to always operate out of respect for those tribal members who have been connected, who do have a greater understanding of where we've come from than we do. But again, we want to be good stewards of our own heritage. So Addie was able to really learn about and feel pride in herself, but she also got the opportunity to do that with other kids in her class who celebrated different holidays than we do. And their classroom was a safe space for her to ask a kid, what is Ramadan? Tell me about that. I want to hear all about that. Mm-hmm. And where that child in turn felt safe and comfortable enough to answer those questions.
Yes.
I really feel like this whole school year set her up to be a kid and then an adult who knows what her priorities should be. And it also set her expectations really high for what she expects now in an educational experience.
I'm chewing on how you all immediately knew that this teacher was different. I wish that there was a study. I'm no doctoral candidate whatsoever, but I wish that there was some type of a study because students and parents know which teachers are really good immediately. Like within the first 5-10 seconds of walking inside of a classroom, a student knows if that substitute or if that teacher is stern, is loving, is caring, is a pushover. That there's something to it. I don't know if it's the energy, the aura that they come off with. I don't know. But it sounds like in this case here, you all walked in and you automatically knew.
We did. There was just a sense about the way she received her students and her immediate intent upon getting to know those kids and building relationships with them. And I think she had like even a class mission statement on her About Me page that was, we are going to include and be respectful of everyone. I mean, she spelled it out that as a parent, I thought, this is going to be a really incredible school year. And this is going to be a space where my kid is going to have opportunities to really grow as a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how empowering that is for your baby. Just to, oh my goodness. I can only imagine how she was feeling after she experienced all that. That's, oh man, that's exciting.
Yeah.
It gives me chills.
Yeah. Like to know that this is a third grader.
Yes.
Like, this is what I want to learn. And are you going to teach it? And then the teacher's like, not only am I going to teach it for you, but did you know about these cultures over here?
Yes.
Get all this education.
Yes. And just a little advocate. Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. And even honoring, like I love how you shared about our Oklahoma land run and how problematic it was for all of us growing up. And how over time we've learned. And when you know better, you do better.
Right.
And
because I remember participating in the land run. I was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, I thought it was like a field day. Like we get to go outside for a little bit and run around, but not really ever knowing the significance of it. And having like the opportunity for you all to do that teaching at the house and at the school and how it correlates to all of the learning that your teachers and your students are doing. When Addie said that, what was the initial reaction to the teacher when she said, I want to learn about not just about my tribe, but about other tribes? Like, how did she respond to that?
I mean, she responded very positively. And again, I really think that this teacher came into this school year just based on how she presented herself to the kids and to the parents. I think it was her intention all along to really incorporate the Native perspective, not just incorporate it, but teach the truth about what happened, and not just to talk about the horrific parts of what happened to Native people, but to make sure the kids understand these tribes are alive and well and vibrant today, and they're sitting here in your classroom with you. I I think that was always her intention. But again, the fact that Addie felt like she could advocate for herself and she could express what she wanted and needed, and to have that teacher respond to her in such a positive way, not just in the moment and say, oh yeah, we're going to do that, but to show her throughout the entire course of the school year, this is important to me. And the modeling that shows, this is important to me. And as a white teacher, for a child to see a white teacher who says, this is why diversity and inclusivity is important for my child who looks white, that's important. That's important for her to see someone in that capacity say, this is how we're going to operate in the world, and to model, this is your responsibility. This is how you need to operate in the world too. That it was just such a powerful experience all the way around. And, I think sometimes teachers, you have this child in your class for a year, and then they go off into the world, and sometimes you never know what becomes of them or what kind of an impact you had on that child. I'm telling you that this school year had a forever impact on my child. And I can see that in the way she carries herself now. And I can see how that's going to continue to impact her as she gets older.
Yeah. I also love how you talked about inside of the classroom, how this teacher wanted all of the books to look like the students inside the classroom. I'm such an advocate for that, where your library, and that's something popular happening in elementary now, where the classroom themselves have a library of books from students to choose, and then on top of like the school library or the city library. And I just love that your teacher was already mindful. Like, check this out. Here are books that we're going to rock this year, and they're going to look just like you all. So I need you parents to get on this Amazon. I need you all to go and find teachers pay teach whatever it may be. Let's get on. Let's find this money so we can have books that look like all of our students and that sound like in the cultures of all of our students.
Very intentional.
Yeah,
Love it.
Love it. I also love the return of investment. From an elementary perspective, we don't get to see that immediately. We give, we plant the seed, we water the seed, we nurture the conditions for those seeds to grow. And then sometimes we don't get that return of investment until they are middle school, high school, and we see them at a store and we see what they have become. In this case here, you're already seeing the return of investments, and your teacher is too. That's dope to me.
Yes. So, Erin, we have a lot of parents watching the podcast or listening. So what advice could you give parents? Because this is, they might be struggling, like, how do I even attempt to speak with a teacher or speak with my child about this diversity and inclusion thing? What advice could you give to parents about your situation?
I think just open communication with the teachers is really important. Ask questions about what the kids are going to learn that year, especially if you, like I did, had some specific questions about a day or a piece of curriculum. What is this going to look like for my child? And then I think to be able to gently kind of inform their experience, this is why this could be harmful, or this is why this could be important, because I think we all have to operate from a perspective that, a lot of times I think maybe schools or districts are just, they do what they've always done. And if you don't know why that's harmful or difficult, then you're not going to change. But if you have somebody that can help educate you in a kind way, I feel like that is helpful. I would also encourage parents to ask if your district has a diversity or inclusivity board or committee, and if you want to get involved on a district level, either how you can get involved in that committee, or if you could attend or hear about what the committee is doing or planning for the district. I think that can be a really impactful place to be. And then, Andre, like you said, which I feel like I've learned from you guys, the importance of looking at the books in your kids' classroom or in the library, or teaching your kids how to advocate for themselves too, to ask, can we talk do we have to learn about Christopher Columbus Day, or instead can we learn about Indigenous Peoples Day, which was not from me. That was inspired by Danielle. But it's always okay for them to ask questions.
Yeah.
So to me, just that open communication and kindly asking questions.
Kindly asking questions.
Yeah.
Yes. Some of the best educators in the world are people you've never heard of. They may not be on TV or get the National Teacher of the Year awards, but we want to give those teachers their flowers today. We know the sacrifice and the heavy lifting these educators go through daily. With that said, we present Sprout Outs.
All right, Erin, what person would you like to sprout out today for this episode?
Definitely would like to sprout out Miss Ann Harriet, who was Addie's third grade teacher that really has set her up for a lifetime of understanding why inclusivity and diversity is so important in the classroom and in life. And the prequel to Miss Harriet was Addie's second grade teacher, Mrs. Amy Lounsbury, who through a focus on social and emotional learning in her classroom gave Addie those tools to advocate for herself in the classroom, to enter her third grade year knowing I have a question and I know how to ask it in a respectful way. And Mrs. Lounsbury also, I think, set up that intentionality of diversity and inclusivity in the classroom too, so that Addie had an expectation in third grade when they were going to learn about Oklahoma history, how she wanted it to be presented to her, because Ms. Lounsbury had modeled why that was important. Addie actually, between second and third grade, got to attend a Black Lives Matter rally with Mrs. Lounsbury, and the power of being engaged in that kind of an event with a teacher showed Addie that it's important for teachers and students together to advocate for things that matter.
Yes.
I
love that.
Love that. Shout out to both of them.
Yes. We believe when one wins, we all win. We want to help you win. Erin, how can others follow you on social media and plug any and everything?
Well, Metro Family Magazine is where I would encourage people to go to find everything there is to do in Oklahoma City for families and kids, and also some really great parenting resources. You can listen to our podcast, Raising OKC Kids, which I think has 3 episodes now with Danielle and Andre talking about education in Oklahoma and giving some really powerful tips and advice for parents. Lots of other parenting resources there as well. We have a really incredible national virtual seminar for parents coming up this spring called The Modern Art of Parenting. And of course, Danielle and Andre are 2 of our renowned speakers for that parenting summit.
Renowned.
You are. That's going to be a really incredible experience. It's free for parents to listen to, and it's really focused on all the ways that parenting today is different than how we were parented. So some important things for parents to think about and talk with their kids about. Lots of seminars on mental health in kids and in families. We're talking about how to talk to your kids about racism and social injustices, how to support kids who are trying to figure out or unsure of their gender identity, how to be an affirming ally for kids. So it's going to be a really, really powerful series. And you definitely want to come listen for Danielle and Andre's seminars as well.
Perfect. Well, we've reached the end of another episode of See What Had Happened. Connect with us on YouTube for previous episodes or where all podcasts are located.
And special guest, once again, thank you, Erin, for joining us today. We really, really, truly appreciate it.
Yes. All right. So don't forget to join us next time on
See What Had Happened.
Bye.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcast.